Welcome, history enthusiasts, to a journey back in time, to an era that forged the very soul of America, the 19th century American frontier. It was a place of breathtaking beauty and brutal hardship, where survival wasn't a given, but a daily struggle. And in this crucible of the wild, a unique kind of boyhood unfolded, shaping young lads into the rugged, resilient men who would tame a continent. Today, we're going to explore the fascinating, often unromanticized process of how boys were raised to become men on the American frontier. Forget the idyllic tales of carefree youth. Frontier boyhood was a demanding apprenticeship, a relentless school of survival, responsibility, and unwavering self-reliance. From the tender age of 5, their education began, not in classrooms, but in the untamed wilderness itself. Their lessons were taught by the unforgiving land, by the wisdom of their parents, and by the constant imperative to contribute to the family's very existence. Join us as we uncover the secrets of this transformative period, delving into the chores, the skills, the values, and the subtle yet profound rites of passage that defined manhood on the American frontier. This is more than just history. It's a testament to human adaptability, a window into the making of a nation, and a reflection on the enduring spirit of self-sufficiency. Chapter 1. The Cradle of Necessity. Early childhood and chores. On the frontier, childhood, as we understand it today, was a luxury few could afford. From the moment they could walk, boys were integral, albeit small, components of the family's survival mechanism. There was no concept of playtime in the modern sense. Every activity, even games, often had an underlying purpose related to skill development or practical contribution. Toddlers, barely out of swaddling, were tasked with simple but crucial chores. They might be responsible for gathering kindling, feeding the chickens, or carrying water from the nearby well or stream, a task that, while seemingly trivial, built strength and responsibility. These weren't mere errands. They were the first steps in a lifelong curriculum of self-reliance. As they grew, so did the weight of their responsibilities. By the age of 5 or 6, a frontier boy was expected to be a productive member of the household. Their mornings began not with cartoons or leisurely breakfasts, but with the immediate demands of the farm or homestead. Milking cows, slopping hogs, collecting eggs, and tending to the garden became daily rituals. These repetitive tasks, though perhaps monotonous, instilled discipline, a strong work ethic, and an understanding of the interconnectedness of their ecosystem. They learned the rhythm of nature, the patience required for growth, and the immediate consequences of neglect. A forgotten chore could mean a hungry animal, a withered crop, or a cold hearth. The lessons were stark, direct, and unforgettable. The girls, of course, had their own equally demanding set of duties, focused on the domestic sphere, cooking, cleaning, sewing, and caring for younger siblings. But for boys, the emphasis quickly shifted towards the more physically demanding and outdoor-oriented tasks that were traditionally associated with men. They were the future providers, the protectors, and the builders. This early immersion in labor was not seen as a burden, but as a natural part of growing up, a necessary step towards becoming a capable adult. It was in these seemingly mundane chores that the seeds of independence and resilience were first sown, preparing them for the arduous journey ahead. Chapter 2. The Outdoor Classroom. Hunting, trapping, and marksmanship. Beyond the confines of the homestead, the frontier presented an expansive, often dangerous outdoor classroom. For boys, mastering the wilderness was not a hobby but a fundamental survival skill. hunting and trapping were paramount, providing not just food, but also valuable furs for trade. Learning these crafts began early, often by accompanying fathers or older brothers on expeditions. A young boy might start by learning to set small snares for rabbits or squirrels, gradually progressing to more complex traps for larger game like beaver or deer. They learned to read the land, to identify animal tracks, to understand their habits, and to predict their movements. This observational learning fostered a keen sense of awareness and an intimate connection with the natural world. The rifle was more than just a tool. It was an extension of the frontier man's very being, and boys were introduced to its use at a surprisingly young age. Often starting with small-caliber rifles or even slingshots, they were meticulously taught gun safety and marksmanship. Accuracy was not about sport, it was about efficiency and survival. A single wasted bullet could mean a missed meal, or worse, an inability to defend oneself or one's family. Practice involved shooting at targets, often carved into trees or hung from branches, honing their aim until it became second nature. Many accounts speak of boys as young as 10 or 12 being proficient shots, capable of bringing down game to feed their families. This responsibility, placed upon such young shoulders, instilled a profound sense of purpose and self-reliance. But it wasn't just about killing. Boys learned to field dress animals, to skin them, to preserve the meat, and to utilize every part of the carcass. Nothing was wasted. Hides were tanned for clothing, bones used for tools, and even sinew for thread. This holistic understanding of resource management was a cornerstone of frontier life. Furthermore, they learned to identify edible plants and berries, to find clean water sources, and to navigate by the sun and stars. The wilderness was a library of knowledge, and these young boys were its diligent students, constantly absorbing lessons that would prove invaluable throughout their lives. This practical education, far removed from any formal schooling, was the true curriculum of a frontier boy. Chapter 3: Building and Repairing. The Art of Ingenuity. On the frontier, there were no hardware stores around the corner, no mechanics to call for repairs. Everything needed to be built from scratch, maintained with meticulous care, or fixed with whatever was at hand. This environment fostered an extraordinary level of ingenuity and practical skill in frontier boys. They learned to work with wood from a very young age, starting with simple whittling and carving, graduating to using axes and saws to fell trees and shape logs. Building fences, repairing sheds, and even contributing to the construction of their own homes were common tasks. They learned the properties of different types of wood, the strength of various joints, and the patience required for intricate construction. Blacksmithing, though often a specialized trade, was a skill that many frontier boys had at least a rudimentary understanding of. They might assist their fathers in heating and shaping metal for tools, hinges, or simple repairs. Learning to mend a broken plow, sharpen an axe, or forge a nail was an essential life skill, preventing costly delays or even disasters. This hands-on experience taught them about metallurgy, heat, and the transformative power of the hammer and anvil. It instilled in them a respect for tools and an understanding of how to maintain them, a critical aspect of self-sufficiency. Beyond specific trades, the overarching lesson was problem-solving. When a wagon wheel broke down miles from anywhere, a frontier boy was expected to contribute to its repair. This might involve finding suitable wood, using basic tools to fashion a makeshift part, or creatively adapting existing materials. They learned to improvise, to think on their feet, and to make do with what they had. This constant process of building, maintaining, and repairing instilled a deep sense of self-reliance and an unshakable belief in their own capabilities. There was no room for helplessness on the frontier. Every challenge was an opportunity to learn and grow, to push the boundaries of their practical knowledge. These boys were not just future farmers or hunters. They were budding engineers, carpenters, and resourceful innovators. Chapter 4. The role of the family and community, values and discipline. While the frontier was characterized by independence, it was paradoxically built upon the strong foundations of family and community. These units were the primary educators of boys, instilling not just practical skills, but also the moral and social values essential for survival and cohesion. Fathers were the primary role models, demonstrating through their daily actions the traits of hard work, resilience, courage, and integrity. They taught by example, showing their sons how to face adversity head-on, how to provide for their loved ones, and how to treat others with respect. The bond between father and son on the frontier was often one of deep mentorship and shared labor, far removed from the more distant relationships often seen in urban settings. Mothers, though primarily focused on domestic duties, played an equally crucial role in shaping a boy's character. They instilled values of empathy, compassion, and respect for others. They often taught basic literacy, ensuring that their sons were not only physically capable, but also morally upright. The family unit functioned as a cohesive team, with each member contributing to the collective well-being. This interdependence fostered a strong sense of responsibility and loyalty. Community, though often sparse and spread out, also played a vital role. Neighbors would often assist each other with barn raisings, harvests, or in times of crisis. Boys learned the importance of cooperation, mutual aid, and the unwritten code of frontier hospitality. They saw firsthand the benefits of working together, understanding that a strong community was a bulwark against the harsh realities of the wilderness. Disputes were often settled informally, fostering an early understanding of justice and fairness. Discipline on the frontier was often swift and direct, reflecting the high stakes of their environment. There was little room for prolonged misbehavior when a family's livelihood depended on everyone doing their part. Corporal punishment was not uncommon, but it was generally aimed at correcting behavior and instilling a sense of responsibility rather than simply inflicting pain. More importantly, boys learned through the natural consequences of their actions. A failure to complete a chore meant a hungry family. A reckless act in the wilderness could lead to injury or even death. These immediate and tangible consequences were perhaps the most effective teachers, shaping a strong moral compass and an understanding of personal accountability. The values of honesty, courage, and perseverance were woven into the fabric of daily life, forming the bedrock of a frontier boy's moral education. Chapter 5. Rites of Passage. From boyhood to manhood. Unlike many traditional societies with formal ceremonies, the transition from boyhood to manhood on the American frontier was often marked by a series of informal, yet profoundly significant, rites of passage. These were not singular events, but rather a gradual accumulation of responsibilities and successful challenges that demonstrated a young man's readiness to take his place among adults. One of the most defining moments was often the acquisition of a boy's own rifle. This wasn't merely a gift. It symbolized a new level of trust and responsibility. It meant he was now expected to contribute significantly to hunting for the family, to protect the homestead, and to defend himself if necessary. It was a tangible sign of his growing autonomy and his recognized capability. This was often accompanied by his first solo hunting trip for significant game, a true test of his skills and courage. Returning with a deer or a bear was a powerful affirmation of his ability to provide and protect. Another crucial marker was the ability to perform a man's work without supervision. This could involve plowing a field from dawn till dusk, single-handedly felling a large tree, or building a substantial structure. These tasks, demanding both physical strength and practical knowledge, demonstrated not just physical maturity, but also the mental fortitude and self-reliance expected of a man. Successfully completing such tasks, often without adult assistance, marked a young man as capable and ready for the responsibilities of adulthood, including marriage and establishing his own homestead. For many, reaching manhood also meant taking on the ultimate responsibility, establishing their own family and carving out their own piece of the frontier. This involved finding land, building a cabin, clearing fields, and providing for a wife and future children. This was the ultimate test of all the skills and values they had accumulated throughout their childhood. It was a declaration of independence, a commitment to self-sufficiency, and a full embrace of the frontier ideal. These weren't celebrated with elaborate ceremonies, but rather with quiet pride, a knowing nod from the community, and the respect earned through demonstrated capability. The frontier didn't just teach boys how to survive. It demanded that they thrive, to become the architects of their own destinies and the pillars of a new society. Chapter 6. Education Beyond the Farm. Literacy and Life Lessons. While formal schooling was often sporadic and limited on the frontier, it would be a mistake to assume that frontier boys were uneducated. Their education was simply different, prioritizing practical skills and real-world knowledge. However, literacy, even if basic, was highly valued, especially for keeping records. Mothers often took on the role of primary teachers, using whatever scarce books they possessed to teach their children to read and write. Traveling teachers, often called circuit riders, would periodically visit communities, holding brief sessions in makeshift schoolhouses or even homes. These lessons, though short, were eagerly absorbed. The ability to read allowed access to information, from government proclamations to agricultural almanacs, and fostered a connection to the wider world beyond their immediate surroundings. Beyond the 3 R's, frontier boys learned invaluable life lessons that no textbook could ever convey. They learned resilience in the face of adversity, understanding that setbacks were not failures, but opportunities to learn and adapt. The harsh climate, crop failures, illness, and the constant threat of danger taught them perseverance and the importance of never giving up. They learned about self-control and patience, particularly when hunting or waiting for crops to mature. The unpredictability of nature instilled a deep respect for forces beyond their control and a reliance on their own ingenuity. They also developed an acute sense of observation and critical thinking. Reading tracks in the snow, predicting weather patterns, or understanding animal behavior required sharp, analytical skills. This wasn't abstract thinking. It was thinking with immediate, tangible consequences. Every decision, from where to plant a crop to how to approach a wild animal, required careful consideration and assessment of risks. This constant engagement with their environment honed their judgment and their ability to make quick, sound decisions under pressure. Finally, they learned about the preciousness of life and the inevitability of death. Loss was a common companion on the frontier, whether of livestock, loved ones, or even entire communities due to disease or conflict. This constant exposure to the fragility of existence instilled a deep appreciation for the present moment and a stoic acceptance of life's hardships. Their education, while unconventional, was profound, preparing them not just for survival, but for a life of purpose, self-reliance, and an unwavering spirit in the face of an untamed world. Chapter 7. The Frontier Legacy. Shaping American Identity. The way boys were raised on the 19th century frontier didn't just shape individuals, It profoundly influenced the very character of the American nation. The values and skills instilled in these young men, self-reliance, resourcefulness, courage, resilience, and a strong work ethic, became deeply ingrained in the American identity. The image of the rugged individualist, capable of overcoming any obstacle, largely stems from this period and the formative experiences of frontier boyhood. The westward expansion, driven by these men, wasn't just about claiming land. It was about asserting a particular way of life, one defined by hard work, ingenuity, and an unyielding spirit. The frontier demanded adaptability and innovation, qualities that continue to resonate in the American psyche. The ability to figure it out and to make do is a direct descendant of the necessity that governed daily life on the frontier. Moreover, the frontier experience fostered a unique sense of community and mutual assistance, even amidst the emphasis on individual independence. The barn raisings, the shared defenses against common threats, and the informal networks of support demonstrated that true self-reliance often depended on collective action. This balance between individualism and communal cooperation became a hallmark of American society. While the physical frontier may have closed, its legacy lives on in countless ways. The entrepreneurial spirit, the drive for innovation, and the enduring belief in the power of individual initiative can all trace their roots back to the lessons learned in the wilderness. The willingness to take risks, to push boundaries, and to forge a new path. These are the enduring gifts of the frontier experience. The boys who grew into men in that challenging environment laid the groundwork for a nation that valued freedom, opportunity, and the relentless pursuit of progress. Their story is not just a historical footnote. It is a fundamental chapter in the ongoing narrative of American identity. From sunup to sundown, from childhood to manhood, the frontier was a relentless teacher, shaping boys into the resilient, independent, and resourceful men who would build a nation. Their classrooms were the vast plains and dense forests, their lessons etched not in textbooks, but in the calloused hands and unwavering spirit. The legacy of the frontier boy is not just a tale of survival, but a testament to the power of human ingenuity and the enduring strength of character forged in the crucible of necessity. Thank you for joining us on this historical journey. If you found this glimpse into the past insightful, please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more historical deep dives, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What aspect of frontier life surprised you the most? Until next time, keep exploring the rich tapestry of history.